Issues were discussed on gender-based violence, teenage pregnancy in reference to the northern region, Kaduna State, Nigeria, during the pandemic. In the report delivered by some NGOs, 1 of 4 girls had no access to adequate learning environment. Instead of 5 hours of learning, it decreases to 2 hours of learning during the pandemic. Join me as we hear what this group has to say about this.
Us winning the war on COVID-19, and I'd like to first ask you why you're wearing a mask. Thank you. So we may be winning the war on COVID-19. There are no facts to prove that, but yes, we know that our hospitals are not filled up with people dying or dropping dead. We understand that. As an adult, I can't imagine going to school and knowing that that school was used as a COVID-19 isolation center or anything to do with COVID-19. If I were to go to that school, I would constantly be concerned as an adult. So a child might not have that mental resilience as an adult who would say, okay, nothing has happened and just get on with it. I think it's unfair for our children, actually, to know that their schools were used as a COVID-19 center, and you send them to school and you sit there and say, well, we're winning the war, why should they be concerned? They don't have a choice. Would you send your child to a school knowing that that school was used as a COVID-19 center? Honest question, please answer. Thank you. That answers the question. Thank you very much.
Sorry, just about the research.
The research. Girls naturally are more concerned that's their initial concern. Boys naturally were more concerned about the inability of their parents to pay for school fees. It's just the way we're wired. Naturally, I'm more concerned for your safety than I am concerned for how much money you have in your pocket naturally.
But the reason why, yes, let me tell you, the reason why that parents are more likely to send their boys to fee-paying and private schools, whereas the girls were going to public government schools. The public government schools were the schools that were used for COVID treatment centers. So of course that fear will be more in the girls because their schools were used for COVID treatment centers. And the boys, the reason why they felt that they cannot return back to school because of school fees is because the economic effects of COVID it affected the family. So the parents no longer have the money to send them to those private or fee-paying schools. So the research actually revealed that in Nigeria, parents, if they send their girls to school, they're sending them to public schools with hidden fees. But they're bringing forth money to send their boys to public, private, fee-paying schools.
And last question. And then that the survey was actually conducted in just Kaduna State or other states in the country. Let me reiterate that this survey was just conducted in Kaduna State. Just Kaduna State. Thank you.
There was 36 million children out of school. That's the nationwide. That's just not for Kaduna.
When I was speaking earlier, I did mention that yes, the survey didn't really carry out sensitive issues surrounding surrounding gender-based violence, forced marriage, teenage pregnancies. Like I said, remember that this survey was actually conducted during the COVID-19 lockdown, right? And then also, as at that time, it was a rapid assessment and there was no provision as at that time for psychosocial support and legal support for these children. You can't be conducting this survey without having this at hand. So because of this, because it was a rapid assessment, we really wanted to assess the impact of COVID on girls in Kaduna State. So that was why we didn't go towards that axis. And when I was presenting, I also mentioned that media reports, we all know, we read news articles every time, and we know the kind of surge in the rate of these issues. So that's why we did not go through, that's why we did not factor in these issues, child marriages, forced marriages, and then teenage pregnancies. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, there's so many child protection policies, rules. If you ask certain things and you're not providing the support afterwards, there's so many rules to that. Yeah. So because of the lockdown, all of that, we couldn't go that route.
And these children have actually gone through a lot of trauma. They've been through a whole lot. So you should be able to have that at hand if you want to talk about sensitive issues like that. Thank you.
The reason why we feel that it can be an example for what's happening nationwide is because the type of questions we asked revealed that there are certain things that generally across the nation happen to the girl child. For example, Nigeria, culturally, girls have more chores than boys, right? So you see during the COVID-19, the amount of chores increased for girls, the amount of study time also decreased as well for both boys and girls. Before schools closed, children were spending about between 5 to 10 hours studying school. Once schools were closed, that went down to 2 hours. Generally, there are certain things in this report, and I urge you to actually read it. You'll see that it went across the board. You can see that it will be an issue that affected, no matter what region you're in Nigeria, that it affects everybody. All the girls, no matter if they're in the southern region. There are certain things that, yes, from your own knowledge, you would know that maybe this is particular to the north versus the south. But things like economic impact, things like study time, things like sexual, gender-based violence, what's happening nationwide. And so we chose Kaduna because we felt that this was the area, especially because of our work too, we can get that rapid response that we needed. This is just an initial finding to help guide the work that needs to be done by communities, CSOs, NGOs, and the government as well. And then what you said about the fear of COVID, I explained it earlier, maybe you didn't hear me. The reason why girls feared COVID more than boys is because the boys in families, the parents were paying for them to go to private schools or fee-paying schools, whereas the parents would send the girls to public schools that's free, free. And so these public schools, government schools, were used as COVID treatment facilities. Once your school is being used as a COVID treatment facility, that fear is created once you go back to school. The boys don't have that fear because their schools, which were private schools, weren't being used for COVID treatment. And so the boys were more concerned about not going back to school because of school fees, because the economic impact of the pandemic. The parents no longer have the money to send them to that private school, so they fear that they're not going to be able to go back to school because of that reason.